I hate to interrupt the prelude music. It's so nice. Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Danbury. My name is Todd Zagorek. Pronouns are he, him, his. I'm your service coordinator this morning. Melanie and I have been coming to UCD for, it's going on 16 years now, and we keep coming back because we like it, and I hope you do too. This morning, we will continue a month of services on the theme of exploring possibilities. And our minister, Reverend Tony Lorenzen, will reflect on the work that goes into meaningful transformation. However you're feeling this morning, whether you're feeling up, down, sideways, indifferent, or snuffly with allergies like me, there's a place for you here. And we come together to make this morning a celebration of community, support, friendship, kindness, and inspiration. And I'm glad that you're here. As we gather this morning, we acknowledge, as always, that our building is on the traditional land of the Peguasit, Pequannock, Scaticoke, and Wappinger people. And before we get started, I invite you to greet your neighbors either here in the hall or online, and then we'll begin. It is a very busy day today here at UUCD. After the service at 11:30, I was a little too enthusiastic with the chimes. I'm sure they'll calm down. After the service, you have your choice of offerings. At 11:30, after coffee hour, after joining us for coffee hour, here in the fellowship hall will be choir practice. Downstairs, I will be offering a little presentation about the budget. Not next year's budget, that hasn't been made yet, but this year's budget. So, I mean, if it remains a mystery to you, if the budget is strange to you, feel free to come downstairs. It will be a short presentation. We'll leave time for questions and answers. We just thought this would be a good time in connection with the Stewardship Pledge Drive. And also, across the way in the cottage at 11:30, Reverend Tony will be facilitating a discussion on the topic of abolishing the prison industrial system and how that relates to the genocide ongoing in Palestine. Then, this afternoon, we hope that you will return at 4 o'clock for Music at the Ridge. This month, we have Louis Collins and Anand Nayak. And the Hartford Courant calls them one of New England's clearest and most distinctive folk voices with unusually piercing lyrical insight. My script says tickets are $20. Are they 20? Is it 25? Isn't it? Yeah, it's 25. It's 20 if you register online to watch it remotely, but it's 25 at the door. For other announcements, you can see your order of service or check the weekly email newsletter this week, or you can check the events tab on the website. And as always, please join us for coffee after the service. We make this time and place holy simply by being together, and we begin by lighting the flaming chalice as a symbol of our Unitarian Universalist traditions. So please join me in reciting the words to our chalice lighting, which you will find on the screen because they're a little different. They might not be what you're used to. May this flame cast its light toward the coming days, reminding us that the future is not simply a place we are going, but a place we are creating. Thank you. Thank you, Sterling. And now please join me in our covenant affirmation. We as Unitarian Universalists don't have a creed or a dogma. What holds us together is our covenant promises to each other about how we will engage in a loving community. Let's renew those promises now. Love, it's not here, but this is the one you know. Congregation, and justice is its light. This is our covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek and speak the truth in love, to help one another and celebrate life. And now, please rise if you would like for our hymn of welcome, Rising Green. It's number 1068 in the teal hymnal, if you happen to have that.
My blood doth rise in the roots of yon oak, her sap doth run in my vein. Boundless my soul, like an open sky, where the stars forever have lain. Where the stars, where the stars forever have lain. My hands hold the weavings of time without end, my side as deep as the sea, beating my heart, sounds of measures of old, and of love's eternity. That of love, that of love, that of love's eternity. I feel the tides as they answer the moon, rushing on a far distant sand. Winging my song is the wind of my breast, and my love blows over the land. And my love, and my love, and my love blows over the land. My foot carries days of the old into new. Our dreaming shows us the way. Wondrous our faith settles deep in the earth, rising green to bring a new day. Rising green, rising green, rising green to bring a new day.
I invite you to join me in our children's affirmation. We are Unitarian Universalists. We are people with open minds, loving hearts, and helping hands. We care for the earth and each other. I have a story for you this morning. It's called The Patient Bamboo. Once, in a village up in the hills, an old farmer named Min planted a single bamboo seed in the corner of his small plot of land. It was the sort of seed you hardly notice. Thin, tiny, brown, easily lost in the dirt. Still, Min dug a careful little hole, put the seed gently into the hole, softly covered it over with earth, watered it, whispered a prayer over it, and left it to sleep. Days passed. Seasons rotated. Rain warmed to sun, and sun cooled to rain, and the fields around the seed that Min planted sprouted. Shoots, radishes, grains, beans, flowers. Neighbors came and went to their plots of land and smiled gently and sometimes laughed at Min's empty corner of earth. "What are you waiting for, Min?" they asked. "That spot could be growing cabbages right now." Min just smiled. He watered his little seed faithfully, sometimes pulled a weed, sometimes added a pinch of compost. No green shoot came up to show for all his work. People started to joke that Min liked to plant rocks. And year after year, the same thing happened. People grew their crops and sold them at market. Children went to school and grew up. Some people in the village got married and moved away. People went about their lives. And Min just kept tending his little barren patch of ground, watering, pulling weeds, whispering prayers over it. When it stormed, he sometimes rushed out to shelter it so the top wouldn't wash away. When there was drought, he carried buckets of water a long distance to make sure his little seed stayed watered. Sometimes he would sit on a low furrow near his plot of dirt and press his palms into the earth as if feeling for something you could not see. Why not plant something that gives you a crop? His neighbors asked. And they shook a fresh bushel of corn at him, as if by example. Why are you wasting time on an empty patch of ground, Min? And Min just patted his little seed and said, "Shh, roots are listening in the dark." On the fifth spring after he planted his seed, the mist thinned, the air tasted of sap, things were coming back to life. Something changed. In the middle of Min's plot of barren earth, a little green shoot came through the ground. No larger than your fingernail. But you couldn't miss it. It was bright green in the middle of the square of earth. And Min laughed and he cried. He was so happy. He tended that tiny shoot as if it were a newborn baby. He protected it from the goats and the pests and the frosts. And he made a little tiny fence around it with twigs. And then he put a bigger fence around it as it grew a little bigger. And in one growing season, the little bamboo seed did what people thought it was never going to do. It rose up straight like an arrow, like a pillar. It got taller than the tallest house in the village. And then more shoots started coming up next to it. And Min tended them all patiently, just as he did when the seed was by itself in the ground. Within the first year, the stalks were so high that children could not even throw stones over them. The bamboo hummed when the wind passed through it, and it was cool and living and strong, and people would come to see it and be astonished. How did that happen so suddenly? Some called it luck. Some said the soil had finally woke. Min walked through the bamboo grove, his hands brushing the columns, and told them simply, "It just took time. While you saw nothing, roots were making a house and a foundation under the earth. They held water, gathered food from the ground, and grew deep where none of us could see. That waiting and that gathering was their work. And from that bamboo, the village got many things. The stems became tools and fences. The leaves provided shelter. And in cold months, the warm smoke from the fires it made reminded people of the patient season that preceded the bamboo's abundance. And children in the village learned to plant with a different kind of hope, one that did not always expect a harvest by autumn, but one that trusted that the slow, unseen work beneath the earth beneath their feet was ongoing and worthwhile. And years later, when Min was a very elderly man in the village, his hands had slowed down. People still told the story and spoke of the bamboo patch that he grew, where nothing seemed to be growing, and all of a sudden it seemed to be there overnight. They taught their children what Min had taught them. Great strength often grows in silence. And that what we see at the end is only the top of a long, patient story written out of sight. That bamboo grove stood for many, many generations in that village, a quiet temple of rising green that remembered the hands that tended it so carefully when it seemed it wasn't even there. I invite anyone who would like to go down to our children's programming to come and, where's Annie? Annie, and there's Annie. She'll take you down. And on the way, they're going to grab the food for the Dorothy Day Pantry, and they'll take their lantern. And while they're doing that, we'll sing This Little Light of Mine. I feel a little more shiny. It's sunny. It's not freezing. We're all here. I invite all of us to gather ourselves and let us be here in this awesome place with this wonderful community. Isn't it great to just be here sometimes? Let's just be here together a moment. Poet Mark Nepo says, "What a powerful lesson is in the beginning of spring. All the buried seeds crack open in the dark, the instant they surrender to a process they cannot see." In nature, he writes, we are quietly given countless models of how to give ourselves over to what appears dark and hopeless, but which ultimately is an awakening beyond all imagining. This moving through the dark into bloom, he thinks, is the threshold to God. Spring brings us the annual reminder that transformation is the process of life itself, through winter, cold, darkness, difficulty, and any rough season. But it's always, as long as it seems, only a season. There is always another season of light, of growth, of peace. And it is that in which we put our trust. Helping us move through those seasons is something we do here every week on Sunday by sharing what's in our heart, providing a time and a place to hold what's going on with us, to be seen and heard. And so once again, I invite us into that space and invite those of you who would like to come silently place a stone of a milestone in the water to come forward and do so now. Stones, in recognition that people have been heard and seen, in recognition that there's always a lot left unsaid, and for all the places in the world right now suffering with war and deprivation, the pain being caused by some upon others. Let's raise our voices in song with one of our greatest prayers, Spirit of Life.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Our reading today is called Vahavta by Aurora Levens Morales. Imagine winning. This is your sacred task. This is your power. Imagine every detail of winning, the exact smell of the summer streets in which no one has been shot, the muscles you've never unclenched from worry gone soft as newborn skin, the sparkling taste of food when we know that no one on earth is hungry. Lean with all your being towards that day, when the poor of the world shake down a rain of good fortune out of the heavy clouds, and justice rolls down like waters. Defend the world in which we win as if it were your child. It is your child. Defend it as if it were your lover. It is your lover. Imagine war is a scarcely credible rumor, that the crimes of our age, the grotesque inhumanities of greed, the sheer and astounding shamelessness of it, the vast fortunes made by stealing lives, the horrible normalcy it came to have, is unimaginable to our heirs, the generations of the free. Don't waver. Don't let despair sink its sharp teeth into the throat with which you sing. Escalate your dreams. Make them burn so fiercely that you can follow them down any dark alleyway of history and not lose your way. Make them burn clear as a starry drinking gourd over the grim fog of exhaustion and keep walking. Hold hands, share water, keep imagining, so that we and the children of our children's children may live. It's time for our offering. Our offering this morning comes right in the middle of our stewardship pledge drive. You should have received a letter about the pledge drive by now. If you didn't, let me know, but I can make sure that you get one. Today would be an excellent day to pledge, by the way. So as soon as you go home, if you haven't had a chance to pledge, please do so. We are off to a good start. We have received 31 pledges totaling about $115,000. So I think we're probably about halfway there. It's a good start, but we need to keep up the momentum. You may have noticed in your order of service, you may have noticed JETPIG. Quick quiz. What does it stand for? J, anybody? Justice. E? Integrity. T? P? Very good. I? Yeah, that's a tough one. G. Okay, that is mostly correct. Most of the time that's right, but not today. Today, JetPig stands for Join Everyone to Pledge in Generosity. JetPig. And now we have a short video featuring our own Dan Brodax.
Why do I come to UUCD? It's a spiritual home. Basically, I'm able to explore a lot of different things. My wife and I run something called Movies with a Message every month, and that's all about different life situations, springboards, stories, and experiences of deeper meaning. And then on my music, I've been able to really grow with my music. We founded our own little folk rock trio here, Nancy, Joe, and I, and basically we're all born in 1954, sing three-part harmonies, and I've got so much out of that. I'm also on the nominating committee, and that's very interesting, trying to keep a board position filled. That's challenging. The support from my sons is just incredible. I can't tell you what it does for one of my sons who just, it's his favorite place in the world. So I just I could go on, but all I'll say to you is, if you want to grow and really expand your horizons, come to UUCD.
Thank you, Dan, and thank you for your generosity. Remember, you can give at any time. There's the QR code in the order of service. You can give online at the Give tab, or you can send a check to 24 Clapboard Ridge Road. And I see the ushers have already collected the offering, but
Let's keep going.
are you sure? I don't want to skip the offertory.
No,
It sounds
fine,
really.
it's fine.
Okay, maybe we could have it later or something. Okay, all right, maybe so. All right. I think that's to you then.
Offering was taken.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, we already offered.
Yeah, we already did our
You guys are so generous. You're fast.
Eager.
I particularly love the way everyone rattled off our values. That's pretty cool. Recite the 7 principles now. See what a difference it makes, eh? I was sitting out in front of my wife's church in Woodbury on Friday because conveniently there's a couple of park benches there right in front on the lawn with Pancake. Pancake sometimes likes to stop in the middle of the walk and just sit for a while. Fine. And my friends Alan and Cynthia walked up. They were bringing in decorations for a family gathering. They were renting the social hall the next day. And Alan sits down on the bench next to me and looks up at the sky and says, "What a glorious morning. I just love spring." He says, "This is my 65th spring, and every year it feels like it's the first one I've ever noticed." Isn't that great? The bursting forth in life of spring, it just never gets old. I do, but it doesn't. Pancake and I kept walking, eventually, when she was done sitting at her bench. And we got to this place in the park where we always walk near the house, into this field of daffodils. There's no garden. There's no arrangement. There's just daffodils on this patch of grass. Now, there is a historic site, an old building that was the original parsonage of my wife's church. So it's a historic site now, but around it is also a historic model of a 19th century garden that someone who used to live there has. So really cool, fancy, well cared for garden. And every time I walk through those daffodils every spring, I think, I bet some volunteers went over to this patch of grass when they were planting a few daffodils in the actual garden and said, "Hey, let's just make daffodils." And I could see them kind of like Min in the bamboo story, just like, we'll throw some stuff here. It'll come up eventually. And they do every year. Sometimes they pop up one at a time. But this year they seemed like the whole field seemed to just be there overnight. It was a couple weeks ago, there was a rain one day, and the next day when we took our walk, boom, they're all there. And it's like magic. Every spring, they're not there, and they are. Spring, instant rebirth, miracle, just happens out of nowhere. But as Min told us with the bamboo, that's not how it works. Plants are always doing a lot of stuff when we're not noticing them. Those daffodils, like the crocuses, they're underground. And when the flowers kind of go away as the summer starts to heat up and spring gets into summer, the leaves of those plants are still there and the roots are still there. And they use all that summer into the fall to store up all kinds of energy and disappear. But then in the spring, the next year, like magic, a miracle out of nowhere, it just happened, pop, go the flowers. It's a process. Rebirth, transformation, springing back to life does not just happen out of nowhere. There's always a lot going on, unseen, in the background, behind the scenes, underground. Like Mark Nepo said in a little prayer this morning, what a powerful lesson in the beginning of spring. All the buried seeds crack open in the dark the instant they surrender to a process they can't see. That's the giving over. And I think it often feels like we're moving through this kind of underground darkness right now in these times we live in. And yet I hope if we feel down about this sometimes, we remember that we are not just in a dormant time, and it is not dark and hopeless. Give ourselves over, like Mark Nepo says in his poem. And he doesn't mean give ourselves over into despair or hopelessness that nothing can be done, but give ourselves over to that process where it seems, perhaps, on the surface, nothing might be happening. But trust that there's something building in the roots, in the foundation, underground, perhaps where you can't see what's going on. Because there is. Use that image from nature of things unseen, that even though we don't notice them, they are working hard, storing energy, organizing the regrouping for the next bursting forth into beauty and life. Because with that comes a sense of liberation. I know I feel a lot freer just in my spirit now that it's spring. And I really noticed that the other day when Alan said, what a glorious day. Spring, it never gets old every year. You know, although they got into the spring calendar for different reasons, both Easter and Passover are well suited to the season because they are both stories of rebirth. They're stories of transformation. They're also both stories of liberation from empire, which I think is pretty important for where we're at right now. Both are stories of oppressed people building up into bursting free with new life. Passover is literally the journey of an enslaved people escaping an empire into freedom. Easter is a story of a people oppressed by empire, learning that they too are valuable human beings, no matter who they are. Seeing themselves worthy of dignity and respect. A radical notion then, and even now to some people. And both stories start with this buildup, maybe unseen, underground, of resistance. Passover begins with the story of the 10 plagues. Let us go or else. Kind of reminds me of the story of Saul Alinsky. telling everybody to eat beans before going to the opera to protest something? Right? Right? There's a plague of foul odor, and we'll mess up your event because you need to listen to us and give us what we want. The plagues are resistance. And Jesus' story includes a similar type of resistance. It includes this parade of Jesus on a donkey and people waving tree branches as he goes into Jerusalem. Anybody who heard this story when it was first making the rounds would have got this immediately, that this was a mockery of the Roman Empire, with their generals and officials riding in on handsome horses and banners waving and trumpets blowing. It's kind of like going to the No Kings rally and seeing people dressed up in their 1776ers outfits and their resistance frog balloon get-ups and their baby Trump in a diaper crying outfits, right? The people originally heard that Palm Sunday story would have got it right away. It would have been like us seeing those images online after No Kings. Both have that story of building resistance. They both include this moment that just seems like a miracle, like the bamboo and the daffodils are just there. In the Exodus story, Passover, the slaves escape Pharaoh's army. God literally parts the waters of the sea and they pass through and the waters come back and kill the pursuing army. And Jesus' story ends with an execution. But his followers will say, no, there's not a death. They went to the tomb. It's only the women in the original story, the first version we have. It's only the women who actually show up with the guts to go see what happened. And there's an angel telling them, not here, that has risen. So they both have that miracle where it seems like something just happened out of nowhere. And they all focus our attention on this possibility of building up, coming back to life, and coming back into a life of freedom, escaping the oppression and the death, becoming something new. And that's what transformation is. It's becoming something else. The escape to freedom, the rebirth, the resurrection. And most of the time when this is happening, like the bamboo and the daffodils, you don't notice that process of transformation building up, what's going on as it's starting to happen. You only recognize it at the big end surprise event, the parting of the waters, the empty tomb. But there's always work going on in the background. Like any birth, rebirth is a lot of work. There's always a lot going on. Each time we renew ourselves, it's a process. Sometimes it feels easier. Sometimes we remember it as somewhat easy and not so bad. And when at that time it was pretty painful. And sometimes it seems horrible throughout in all different kinds of ways. There's always a lot of work to do to get through it, before, during, and after. And then after, it's part of a cycle that goes on, like spring. After the Passover story, the story goes on. The Jewish people have to form community. And after Jesus is killed, his followers have to form a community. And those communities go on with cycles of rebirth. To this day, these stories go on. We had the Passover Seder here even, right? The retelling happens every year. Tell the story every year. My wife's church, Christian church, had Easter Sunday. Tell the story every year. Never gets old. Because it's always needed. We always need to come back. Spring back to life. Seek out and achieve that liberation. One of my favorite things I've noticed while I've been learning Portuguese and Spanish the last couple of years is how You notice a lot more about how language works and what words mean when it's not your first language. And a couple things I got really caught on this spring during the Easter Passover season, were words that talk about waking up and getting up in Spanish and Portuguese. We kind of say wake up, get up in English, and we all kind of take it to mean the same thing. But they're two different things in those languages. And they're the same word in both languages. Despertar, to wake up. You're not sleeping anymore. And then there's levantar, to get up, to rise and actually do something. So you wake up, then you get up. And this is like the transformation process. This is the daffodils and the resurrection and the Exodus. It's you wake up, you realize something, you have an enlightenment, you learn something. And then you get up, you act on it, you do something. You make a change, you advocate, you protest, you organize. Transformation requires both in this cycle, this process. Wake up, get up. Learn something. Reflect, do something, which will give you more to reflect on. And that'll usually help you figure out something more to do, and so on and so on. It's an ongoing transformational process. And that process is always a leap of faith. We always have to trust that process will be worth it, because a lot of times we don't take notice of it at the time. Like Min's neighbors, what did he do? Plant a rock? No, he didn't plant a rock. There was a lot going on. You just couldn't see it. We have to let go of the outcome and trust that we might get something else as an outcome rather than the one we had in mind. But that outcome might also be good. And I think we get stuck in the anxiety that that outcome might not be so good. Like while in process, we're hoping for something better, for growth, for renewal. But as our brain gets going, that train of thought can go screaming down the rails of worst case scenarios. And it gets common to imagine all the terrible possibilities. Humans are awesome at anxiety. It's kind of an evolutionary defense mechanism gone haywire from when we always had to be afraid of getting eaten by the saber-toothed monster. We don't have to worry about that so much anymore. So it's easy for us to get stuck in that place. And while we're in that waiting period, we need to keep ourselves focused that the transformation will come and that outcome can be good, not the thing of our fears. Both Passover and Easter are followed by waiting periods. Communities building and gathering for the next birth into life. Before finding the promised land, the Israelites take 40 years of building that transformation to the next step. And when Jesus is executed, his followers seem to literally disappear and vanish for a while. But then all of a sudden they're on the streets preaching that message that everyone's in. I'm sure they were really scared that they were going to get executed too. But all of a sudden, they're not afraid anymore. And they start the next cycle. In order to get to the promised land, and in order to start getting back out in the streets preaching good news, both of those communities had to trust in the process they were in that they would end up where they were supposed to be. We can easily imagine possible disasters. I think we go through our days in this era, we can kind of conjure up all type of worst case possible scenarios. Genuine horror stories of political post-apocalyptic nightmare, even worse than the one we find ourselves in already. But what if we imagined winning? like Aurora Levens Morales? What if another world is actually possible? Can we embrace this while we're in this process? Can we trust that this is where the rebirth and transformation and liberation is going to lead? Imagine winning, she says. It's actually a sacred task to imagine the winning. I like that a lot. It's an incredible prayer to imagine the winning. It's necessary. It's a first step. And imagine the winning for everybody, the woke and the asleep, those of us taking action against injustice and oppression and the oppressors, because that's what it looks like when we win. It's everybody gets included. Imagine war. Imagine war right now as an unbelievable rumor. We hear news that the United States and Iran failed to reach a peace agreement. We're all shocked and stunned. But imagine hearing of that war in the first place is just an unimaginable thing. We can't fathom it anymore. We can get to that place. Imagine the crimes of our age, all this stuff that's going on. Imagine that being unimaginable to our children's children. Imagine the smell of streets in America where no one's been shot. Imagine the taste of your food when you know that no one else in the world is hungry right now. Imagine when everything that we have right now that we're struggling against is unknown to future generations. We can get there. It may seem like a wandering through the desert, but there will be an end and a rebirth and a transformation. And I love that Aurora Levens Morales says, hold hands, share resources, and keep imagining. Keep imagining what it looks like when we win. Reminds me of Dan Savage's statement about the early days of the AIDS crisis. And he said, we buried our friends in the morning, we protested in the afternoon, and we danced all night. And the dancing was really important because it was the dance we were fighting for. Imagine the winning. And don't forget to practice the winning along the way. It's the dance. What will it look like when we win? Because I'm sure of one thing right now in the midst of all of this. Winning looks like spring. It looks like rebirth. It looks like resurrection. It looks like the promised land.
Please join me in the words for extinguishing our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth. The warmth of community, the fire of reason, the ease to carry in our hearts, and out into the world, until we are together again. Please join now in our hymn of celebration, Wake Now My Senses. It's number 298 in the gray hymnal, or the words are on the screen.
reminder to join us for coffee and one of the many things going on afterwards. There is much work to do, says Reverend Bill Sinkford. We have only begun to imagine justice and mercy. Help us hold fast to our vision of what can be. Go in peace.
That song is my favorite. Oh, that song? That feels kind of rough.
Yes, they have. They're all over the place, along with various policies.